Hi, I'm Jordan at Bullman Dock, and today we're going to go through the assembly process of our 6 or 7,500 pound boat lift. So, first thing we're going to do is take a pair of cutters here and we're going to unpack it. So the lift comes with a few boxes. Inside the one box is our controls. We'll set those off to the side. Then we can grab this white box here, which controls or has our hydraulic unit inside of it. Pick the box up. Then we can grab the solar panel here. Set that off to the side. And then cut the other banding. It's going to be under tension. Okay. Now we can grab our first lifting bed spreader. Set that off to the side here. Grab our second lifting bed spreader. Set that off to the side. We can grab the bunks. Okay, next we can unpackage the frame spreaders and the main lifting beams. Both of the frame spreaders are identical. So we'll set that here for now so it's easily accessible when we spread the lift. Take the second one and set it here so it's easily accessible for the lift. Then we get to the lift beams, and these are different. If we notice here though on the sticker, they're labeled C to D or A to B. So we'll grab the A to B one. And we'll set that with the sticker facing this way, making sure that the lifting corner of the beam is facing towards the primary side of the lift and the sticker's facing away from the lift. Next, we'll grab the C to D lifting beam. We'll place it over here. Making sure that the lifting corner's facing the primary side and the sticker's away. And then we're ready to spread the lift. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to just loosen these shipping bolts. There's 4 on this side and 4 on that side. We're going to just loosen them up for now. We're not going to take them out until we're ready to spread it. Okay, all 4 of those are loose. We'll go down to the other side. Next, we're gonna need help from somebody else. This gets a little top heavy. So you're gonna want somebody to hold the primary side and keep it from falling over, because that could seriously damage you and seriously damage the product. So for that, I'm gonna have help. So with somebody supporting the primary side, pull the nuts off. We won't reuse these. But we will reuse the bolts. Now, you can pull the bolts out. Might be a little tight depending on how the lift is sitting. Then we can remove the shipping spreader and set that aside. Two bolts there. 2 bolts there. All right. Now I can grab the secondary side. Then I'll take my first frame spreader and put my first bolt through. Then we can take this. Get the second one started. Then we'll grab the rear frame spreader and get the first bolt started, then we can tilt it down a little bit. All right, that's not going anywhere now. So now that we have our primary with the 2 frame spreaders on it and the bolt started, we can go ahead and hook it up to secondary. Line the secondary to it. All right, got the bolt started. Next, we're ready to grab some bolts out of our hardware kit and install 2 more bolts in each corner and 4 nuts in each corner out of the hardware kit. So, to get to the hardware kit, we'll open up our pump box. And there'll be a few different things in there, including the owner's manual and a assembly kit. So, we want the assembly kit out of there. And we're gonna grab 16 of the silicon bronze nuts and 8 of the 3/8 by 2 3/4 hex cap screws. So I'm gonna put 2 bolts and 4 nuts in each corner. And then we can install them. We have our 2 bolts, so we're gonna add 2 more to it. Then we can install our 4 brand new silicon bronze nuts out of the hardware kit. And just hand tight, we're not going to snug them down yet until we can square the lift up. And then we're going to install 4 brand new silicon bronze nuts. We have our 2 bolts, so we're going to add 2 more to it. Then we can install our 4 brand new silicon bronze nuts out of the hardware kit. And just hand tight, we're not going to snug them down yet until we can square the lift up. Ooh. And then we're going to install 4 brand new silicon bronze nuts. All right, next we're going to measure using a tape measure from corner to corner to make sure that the lift is nice and square so assembly is easier. Real simple, we just hook the tape measure. Take a measurement. And then we use the exact same reference point on the other corner and take another measurement. And both these numbers should be the same. In my case, this measurement here is at 185 and the other one was 187.5, so we're out of square. We need to move this that way. Then we repeat until we get the same measurement. $186. Okay. $186. All right, both measurements are the same. Now we can grab our torque wrench and a 9/16 wrench and tighten all 16 of the bolts down to 19 foot-pounds. Finally, the last corner. Now we can move on to lift bed assembly. In order to assemble the lifting bed, we first need to hook up our hydraulic power unit so we can move our lifting cables. In order to do that, we're going to need a ladder. We're going to take our 9/16 and we're going to loosen these 3/8 by 5/8 bolts here so we can get access to the hydraulic cylinder. We're going to save these bolts because we'll reinstall them after we've got everything hooked up. There's the first one. And the second one's right here. Support the cover so it doesn't fall off. We'll pull our cylinder cover, set this someplace safe so it doesn't get banged up. And now we're ready to install our power unit. So I'm going to pull everything off the tray. So I just have the hydraulic power unit. So we'll grab our hardware out of the hardware kit. We're going to need 4 of the 3/8 by 5/8 bolts to bolt the tray down to the lift. And we're going to need a torque wrench. So we'll grab the power unit with the pump offset towards the left. There's 4 holes up on the top of the cylinder tube that'll line up with the 4 holes in the tray. Once they're lined up, we'll install our 3/8 by 5/8 bolts. They thread right through into the cylinder tube. Okay. There's 2 right next to this little block here, and then 2 down here on the other end. And leave them loose until we get all 4 of them installed. Then we can torque them down to 12 foot-pounds. Okay. So we'll hook up our hydraulic hoses and get ready to feed those through. So the first thing we're going to do is snip this zip tie here that holds the hoses on. And then we're going to feed them up through the bottom here. And the side that's the female is going to go on closest to us, and the side that the male is going to go farthest from us. So next we can hook up our hydraulic hoses. To do that, we'll pull this protector off it. Okay. And the hoses are offset so they can only go on the pump one way. One hose has a male fitting, which goes to this female, and the other hose has a female, which goes over here to that male. So installation's easy. We just push them together and thread the coupler together. And we want to make sure that these are nice and tight. So for this one, I'm going to use a pair of pliers just to grab a hold of the collar there, and then take 1 1/16 wrench just to hold the male side on the hose, and that's nice and snug. And we want to be careful when we're doing that not to loosen the fitting here or adjust the angle of it. Otherwise we'll get a leak. So then we can go over and repeat the process on this side. Battery cable's out of the way. Then repeat the process. We'll remove our plastic covering that protects the quick disconnects. Then real simple, the female quick disconnect on the hose goes to the male fitting on the pump. Push it together and we turn the collar. We'll take our 1 1/16 wrench, hold the male side of the fitting on the pump. Okay, nice and tight. And while we're doing that, we want to make sure that we don't adjust the fitting in relationship to the hose at this joint or adjust this fitting in relationship to the 90 here at the pump. Otherwise we might get a leak. We also want to be careful not to push down or pull up on the hose in this plane because it'll loosen this fitting up here, the O-ring boss at the pump. So while we're here, I'm just gonna take an 11/16 and just make sure that the jam nut on that's nice and tight, hasn't moved, so we're good to go. Now we can grab our control box out of the box. It's got a nice label on it. Let me put my cut resistant gloves on. And just carefully open the box. Inside the box is the cable to attach the control box to the pump. A set of gray caps to go on the secondary side if you're not running a canopy. And finally, the control box with an upright post. And there's 2 different positions on this, one for everyday use and one for if you leave it on when you're shipping it somewhere, or for personal choice. So real simple to install. We pulled this bolt out. Bring the ladder down. And it just drops right into this pocket. Then we reinstall that bolt and put the nut on it. And then if it's for final install, we'll torque that down to 19 foot-pounds. Then we'll grab our control box cable here. And one end's male, the other one's female. So we'll hook the female end of it up to the control box. It just plugs in and threads down the collar, tighten it up, nice and secured. And then we'll take our yellow cable and put it in this groove right here and run it up to the pump. Okay, so we take the other end of the cable and we can run it up through the same hole that we ran our hydraulic hoses through. And pull some slack, and then that'll run underneath this metal plate, and it plugs in right here on this side towards me. Same deal, just plug it into the fitting and thread the collar on. Now our control box hooked up. The lift is designed for a 27 series marine battery. It fits right here on the tray. And we want to make sure we install it with the positive side closest to the pump. So we can pop the shipping cap off that. And then we can get our wiring cleaned up and routed. So the wiring's wrapped around itself for shipping so it doesn't get pinched. We're gonna move our battery cables out of the way. Then we're going to uncoil the solar panel harness, which is connected to the solar panel regulator right here. We can put the covered part that goes to the solar panel off to the side for now. That'll run across. And then we have this other fuse holder here. So this one with the 10 amp fuse in it is the main power to run your control box and your wireless receiver here. So that's just drops on the post there. This one with the 7.5 amp fuse in it is for the solar charger. So the same thing, that just drops on the positive there. Then we can take our positive battery cable, run that through, and drop that on. Might be a little bit of a snug fit. I usually very carefully put a wrench in there and spread the post a little bit to get it to drop on. Work it down. Then once it's on, that can be tightened down. And at this point, we're doing good because we haven't hooked up our ground yet, so I can touch the metal and touch the positive without arcing anything. So I take my 1/2-inch wrench and we just snug that up a little bit. You want to make sure it's snug so it doesn't rotate, but if you tighten it down too much, it's a casting there, so it might crack due to it being a soft metal, like most battery terminals. And then we can put our half down for a second. We'll grab our wrench that fits the nuts that come with it. They're usually 9/16. Then we'll take our solar wire and our main lift power wire, put them on the positive, offset them so they don't pinch each other, and then thread a nut on. Then we can snug that down with our wrench. Okay. Positive's out of the way of the box. Now we can grab our negative. Everything's hooked up so far. Then we can take our negative and feed it through and put it on. And when we route this, we want to make sure that it's not sticking out past the channel too much, because the white box will come down and get caught up if it is. So we take our 1/2-inch wrench and snug it up. And we with that, the battery's installed. Then we can take our solar wire here, and that just sits down in the tray here, runs out the hole over on this side. And we're gonna wanna route that behind the hydraulic hose just to keep it from risking getting pinched by the white cover. Just like that. And that'll be available for hooking up to the solar panel when we're ready. And then this is where we'll install the canopy light in the field. So now that that's done, we can step down and go over to our control box and see if we hooked everything up right. Now we're gonna go up to our control box and press the power button. The blue LED lights up, which means the control box has power. If we press up on it, the pump turns on and I can see that my cylinder is extended. And then if I press down on it, the cylinder's fully retracted. And then you press the light button and you should hear a click from the pump. And everything's working like it's supposed to. So now, with that done, we can tidy this up and put the cylinder cover back on. So with this in the low position right now, we're gonna have a little excess cord, but that's not a big deal because you just cheat that back into the cylinder cover here. When you install it in the upper position, you pull the excess cord out and then you have more room to raise it up. Also with that, this stub is only installed when we're not running a canopy. If we're running a canopy, the canopy upright will drop into this pocket and we'll unbolt it and this control box will bolt right to the canopy upright, and then you have some adjustability there where you can place it where you want. Next we can install the cylinder cover. Move back here. Grab your bolts. Grab the cover. And we're gonna make sure the cable's in the groove there. Tuck the excess in. Make sure that we don't pinch any of our hydraulic hoses. And reinstall our 3/8 by 5/8 bolt with the washer on it. Just get it started. Then we'll go down to this end. Install the other 3/8 by 5/8 with the washer on it. Double check that hoses are not getting pinched, cable's not getting pinched, and then we can torque it down to 12 foot-pounds. And repeat over here. All right. Now we can start assembling the lifting bed. So the first thing we're gonna do for lifting bed assembly is we're gonna take our bunks and build a platform to assemble lifting bed on. So I'm gonna take my first bunk and set it across the frame spreaders. It'll give me a solid platform to assemble everything on. Take my second one. Repeat the process. Next, we can install our lift beams. We already have them laid out on the correct side. So we have our A to B one, and there's a label on the bottom of the beam to identify them. And we also have the lifting side of the beam is towards primary. So real easy, I'm just gonna pick this beam up. And set it right in here. Make sure that the lifting cable is gonna line up with that. Good. And it just sits in here with the rollers between the uprights and the black plastic slider tight up against it. So I'm gonna repeat it down here with my C to D lift beam, which is also labeled. Just pick it up. Drops in just like that. Perfect. Then we'll go over to our hardware kit and grab some. We're gonna grab the last 8 of the 3/8 by 2 3/4 bolts, and then the last 8 of the silicon bronze nuts. Then I'm gonna take 1 bolt and just put it through the bottom hole on the spreader here. That'll make it easier to install. Right on the bottom hole of the C channel on. And then we can install spreader. Real easy, they're both the same on each side, so we just pick it up, work it into the lift, and we just drop it down in the channel so it sits on that bolt, and that just supports it. And then we can pull that bolt out, drop it down so it lines up with the 2 bolt holes, and reinstall. Then we can thread a nut on it. And then once you get one in, it helps sometimes go down the other side and repeat the process. Pull the bolt out, get it through. That flattens it out so we can line up the second bolt hole. Install the second bolt, thread a nut on it. Back to this corner. Install the bolt. And thread a nut on it. And we'll come over and repeat the process with a spreader. So pick it up. Drop it in. Pull the 1 bolt out and pin it. Thread a nut on it. Go down to this corner. Hold the spreader, pull the bolt out, and drop it down a little bit. Put it through and thread a nut on it. And we can install the second bolt. Thread a nut on it. Back to this corner, install the second bolt, thread a nut on it, and then we can grab our 9/16 wrench and torque wrench and tighten them down to 19 foot-pounds. Okay, now we can work on hooking up our cables. All right, so to start for hooking the cables up, we're gonna go over to the secondary side here. And I'm just gonna uncoil this to get some slack. I got gloves on when handling the steel braided cables for protect my hands. So we got that unwrapped, we got some slack. I'm gonna go back to the rear beam and do the same. Perfect. Now we can go back over to the primary and start hooking things up with some hardware from our pack. So we're gonna need all the silicon bronze 1/2-inch nuts to do this. There's 12 of them, 2 per cable end. Then we're gonna need the 6 1/2-inch flat washers, the 2 cotter pins, and then in a separate pack here, we're gonna need the 6 lock washers. Now I'm gonna go place my hardware where it needs to go, just so it's accessible. In this corner, I'm gonna put 1 cotter pin and 4 nuts, 2 lock washers, and 2 of the flat washers. Do the same down at this end. Cotter pin, 4 nuts, 2 lock washers, and 2 flats. And then a flat, 2 nuts, and a lock washer. And then the same over here, flat washer, lock washer, and 2 nuts. Now we can get the cables installed. Not gonna tighten anything down yet. We're gonna wait until we get it assembled and get the weight off the bunks, and then we can level it properly. So we'll start with the lifting cable. It goes through the hole. Install 1 flat washer. I'm gonna thread a nut on it. About halfway to start. Then take a lock washer, just place it on there, and just thread a second nut on there. And it doesn't need to, we don't want to tighten them down yet, so there's a gap there till we're adjusted. Then we'll take this cable and we're gonna attach it through here by wrapping it down around the pulley and up. So this cable is gonna wrap down around the pulley, around this fixed pulley, and up and secure here. So we pull some slack on the cable, run it through the groove there, get a little more slack, run it up there. And then for that, we're gonna drop a flat washer over it, thread on a 1/2-inch silicon bronze nut about halfway. Lock washer, and then thread that on there just a little bit. So then we can put the cable back in the groove there and push the slack through the beam to hold it while we install our retaining pin. So to install a retaining pin, you make sure the cable's nicely seated in this bottom fixed pulley here. And then we put the cotter pin through and make sure that the cable's between the pin and the pulley here. That keeps it from falling down and falling out of the groove. And we just take our pair of pliers and bend it over like that. Perfect. Now we can go to the other corner. All right. So now we're gonna repeat basically everything we just did, except in this corner, we're gonna put the lifting cable through the beam, put on a flat washer, then install a 1/2-inch silicon bronze nut, thread it down about halfway, put a lock washer on, then install another silicon bronze nut, and we're just gonna get that started on there. Then same thing, we're gonna take our lifting beam cable, pull it, route it down, around, and back up. So we'll get some slack in it. Pull it down, get some more slack in it, pull it up. Not a big deal if it falls out of the pulley at this stage. I'm just gonna put a 1/2-inch washer on and thread a 1/2-inch silicon bronze nut on about halfway. Then drop our 1/2-inch lock washer on and thread another 1/2-inch silicon bronze nut. Then we can feed it back into the pulley groove there and push the excess back into the beam so we can install our retaining pin. And that installs just the same way. We pull the cable up out of the way, push it through, and we take a pair of pliers and bend it over. Perfect. Now we can go over to the other side. So we'll grab the cable that runs through the beam here, the leveling cable, pull the slack out, and then this installs up through this bracket. There's a hole in the plate. Hold it, we drop a flat washer over it, and then we install a 1/2-inch silicon bronze nut. Just get it started. Then we can drop our lock washer over and start the second silicon bronze nut, but everything's nice and loose right now until we get it adjusted. Go up to this corner, repeat the process, pull the slack out, place the cable up through the hole, put a 1/2-inch flat washer on and thread on a 1/2-inch silicon bronze nut. About halfway. Then we can drop a 1/2-inch lock washer on and just install the second silicon bronze nut, just a few threads. And we'll leave that loose until we get it all leveled the next step. Now that all the cables are at least hooked up, I'm gonna run the bed up and we can pull the bunks out and we can lower the bed so it's free hanging so we can adjust it. So take a remote and just so I don't have to climb up there. And go up, we're just checking, watching out, making sure that the cables aren't hitting anything or catching and the pump sounds good. So we'll keep going up some more. All right, just going slow with it. then I can take my bunks, set them up there. Set them there. Then we can lower it all the way down. All right. So cylinder's fully retracted. That sound was the relief valve opening. Bed's free hanging now, so now we can take some measurements and get it adjusted. Okay, so we're gonna start in the corner with the control box, and we want the measurement between the top of this cable anchor plate to the top of the lift beam with it free hanging like this to be 1.25 inches. So I'm at about 1.5 inches right now, so I need to loosen my nut on the cable to bring the lifting bed down. So with that under tension, that's kind of difficult sometimes to adjust the nut. So what I'm gonna do is raise the bed up with my remote. And then I'm gonna take a piece of wood that came on the lift for packaging. I'm gonna shove it under the beam here and then lower it down. And that gives me some slack on the cable now because it's sitting on the board. So then we're just gonna loosen this nut a little bit to lengthen the cable. That'll bring this measurement down. So right about there. Bring it back up, pull the board out, and lower it back down. Okay. Still a little high. So we'll repeat the process. Okay, the cylinder's all the way down, bed's free hanging. And there we are, we're at 1.25 inches. All right, so now we can go over and adjust the other lifting corner. So we'll take our board and remotes and our tape measure. We'll come over here and repeat the same process. From the top of the cable attachment plate to the top of the lift beam, we're looking for 1.25 inches. I'm at 1.75 inches right now, so I need to loosen the nut. So same process as before, I'll raise the bed up. Put a board in there. Lower it down. Then I can loosen my nut there. Raise it back up. Lower it back down. And there we go, we're about 1.25 inches. So now I'm gonna raise the lifting bed up a little bit more. Just so I got a slight gap in here that'll help the adjustment process later. And then what I'm gonna do is take my tape measure and I'm gonna measure from the top of here to the top of here. And I'm gonna note this number. I got 5.5 inches right now. The exact number doesn't matter because we're gonna just use that as a reference point to set that one an inch higher. So I measured 5.5 inches from here to here. Now we can go over to that corner directly across and we'll set that at 6.5. So I'll take my board with me. So now we take our tape measure and use our same reference points that we used over in that corner. And I'm at 5.5 and we want this to be 6.5. So I need to tighten the nut up there to raise this. So with that 5.5 and this is 5.5, it needs to be 6.5. So easy way of doing this, is I put my board in there and I just push down, and that gives me plenty of slack here. Gotta go a little more. All right, 6.5. Go back over here just to verify. Yep, 5.5 and 6.5. So this corner is set an inch higher than that corner right now. All right, so now I'm gonna go back over to the corner with the control box here. And I'm gonna do the same thing I did over there, measure it from the top here to top here. And I'm at 5.5, just like I was over there. So this beam is level front to back on the primary. And I'm gonna come over here and we're gonna set this corner to 6.5 so the secondary is level front to back and an inch higher from the primary. Come over here, I'm at 6 inches. So I need to go up 1/2 inch. So put my board in there, put my foot on it to take tension off the cable and lift the bed up, and then I need to tighten my 1/2 inch silicon bronze nut. Let's try that. Six and a quarter, you need to go up just a little bit more. So tighten the 1/2 inch silicon bronze nut. Then we'll check it. And we're at 6.5. So 6.5. 6.5. This secondary side here is level front to back. Five and a half. And 5.5. So our primary side's level front to back, and our secondary side is an inch higher than the primary. So the bed is all adjusted, and we can tighten down our nuts because it's not going anywhere. So we'll start over here, and we'll use our 2 3/4 wrenches and tighten the nuts down against each other. So you want to hold the nut. Sometimes it helps too if we take a 9/16 and we hold the cable swedge from turning. So we're held just like that on the top nut to keep the adjustment in place. Then we take our other wrench and tighten the 2 nuts together. Oh, we're going to want that nice and snug because that's what supports half the boat's weight. Okay, we got the first one. Then we're going to repeat it with the lift beam cable, the leveling cable. So we snug down our nut there. I'm going to hold the swedge with a 9/16 wrench. Hold the bottom nut with a 3/4 wrench. And then tighten the top one down. And then Snug it up. All right. We'll go over and repeat the process. So we'll hold the cable swedge with a 9/16 wrench, put a 3/4 on the top nut, just to keep them from moving in relationship to each other. Then we can put our other 3/4 wrench on the bottom nut. And snug it up. And then we'll go down and repeat the process on our leveling cable. Hold the swedge with a 9/16. Hold the one nut was a 3/4. That'll keep those from moving in relationship to each other. Thread the nut down, and then we can tighten it with our other 3/4. Nice and snug. Then we can go over and tighten down the tops. Hold the swedge with a 9/16. Hold the nut with a 3/4. We thread this one down. Then tighten them against each other. And finally, under the last corner. Hold the swedge with a 9/16. Thread the nut down, just so I don't have to wrench it as far. And then tighten the nuts against each other. All right. Then we can go through and make sure all our other fasteners are nice and tight, and it's just about time for accessories. Well, there's a few other things we probably should do first. At this point, if the lift's assembled on site, we can put our solar panel on and get accessories ready. If we're going to ship it down the road, we'll pull the battery and install the solar panel on site just to keep it from getting damaged. So if we're on site, we can install our solar panel. We grab our 3/8 by 5/8 bolt, and that threads into this tapped hole in this 2-inch receiver here. And then we drop this down through the receiver, and then we tighten the bolt down to hold it using a 9/16 wrench. right. And then pull the wire out of the bottom of it. And that plugs into the wire that we fed through the bottom of the tray here that runs up to the charge controller. And as soon as we plug that in, and it's nice and sunny out, we get a solid green light here right on our charge controller that tells you that the system is operating properly and charging. So if we're on site at this point, and we don't have a canopy light, we're ready to button the box up. So we take our white cover, it drops right into the channel on the tray, and we latch our rubber draw latches. And the lift's ready for bolt fit and bunk setup. At this point, the lift's done. If you have any questions, please contact your local Bullman Dock and Lift dealer or contact us at bullmandock.com. Thank you.